I'm really conflicted over the news I'm about to share with you guys. One half of it is bad, is really bad.
Oh no.
And the other half of it could be really good and could potentially even lead to more Star Wars games that we didn't know we were getting. So Respawn Entertainment, who of course make the Jedi games, who also make Apex Legends, who previously made the Titanfall games, have just come out with a new statement about what's happening at the company. And to start with, it's not good and is potentially going to impact, well, will impact Star Wars games and the Star Wars games they're making, including potentially the next Jedi game. Hey everyone, it's Andrew. So Respawn have just announced that they are stepping away and essentially cancelling 2 games that were in early development at the studio. But in addition to that, are also making some targeted team adjustments across Apex Legends and Star Wars Jedi. And it turns out what this means is that 100 employees at Respawn are being affected by this, meaning they're either losing their jobs or are being moved onto other studios, namely EA Motive, who are working on the Iron Man game, or being shifted around to work on either Battlefield or Star Wars Zero Company, the new strategy game, or other games they have in development that they're not telling us about yet. Now, IGN has reported that one of the cancelled games was a multiplayer first-person shooter that was a spin-off of the other cancelled first-person Star Wars game being made at Respawn. That was cancelled at the start of 2024 and was supposedly a Mandalorian-themed first-person shooter. So clearly some of the developers who were working on that moved on to a new FPS, which I don't think was necessarily Star Wars related, but then now that's also been cancelled.
We were on the verge of greatness. We were this close.
The other game that's been cancelled, Bloomberg reports, was an extraction shooter set in the Titanfall universe. So it seems like we are so far away from ever getting a Titanfall 3, which is kind of funny and disappointing because in 2021, Respawn made this tweet. They said, contrary to what some folks are reporting, Titanfall is the very core of our DNA. Who knows what the future holds? Now, this tweet from 2021 went viral, has 46,000 likes right now, is still public on Respawn's account, meaning that potentially they are still working on something Titanfall themed related, but with this recent layoff, it seems less and less likely. Kind of disappointing. Okay, but what effect is this having on Star Wars? Because the next part of the post they made, I think, has some really interesting terminology referring to the Star Wars games they're making. They said, within the Star Wars universe, we're excited to keep building new stories, with the next chapter of the Star Wars Jedi series aiming to raise the bar again for storytelling and gameplay. Now, previously, they've referred to the next Jedi game to be the final Jedi game, the final of a trilogy, the end, potentially, of Cal Kestis' story. But with this terminology, using the word next, the next chapter of the Star Wars Jedi series, implies that potentially they have plans to continue developing Star Wars games well into the future. Perhaps we're going to see a new Star Wars Jedi themed game from Respawn every 3-4 years. But with this, I think they're also referring to Star Wars Zero Company, the strategy game being developed in conjunction with BitReactor, a new EA studio created and founded, I believe, by a bunch of XCOM devs who used to work on the XCOM games. So Respawn are doing more with Star Wars than just working on another Jedi game already. But also, I think it's important to remember that Sigas Musen, who was the game director for Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor, is no longer at Respawn. He moved on a year or so ago to found his own studio called Giant Skull.
Look at the size of that thing.
And the fact he's moved on definitely leaves me a little concerned over the next Jedi game, seeing as though he seemed to be the main driving force behind the reason they're such good games, or one of the factors anyway. And I wonder if he left leaving Respawn a template or kind of a guideline as to how to make the next game and what can be involved.
Poncho. Well, first thing I noticed is he's not wearing a poncho.
Cameron!
Perhaps he laid the foundation of this and they're just building it out from there. I'm not so sure, but I definitely hope they can still deliver an incredible third Jedi game without him. And that also the third Jedi game will be unimpacted by these layoffs and these developments. I mean, they have said that they've made some targeted team adjustments across Star Wars Jedi. I don't know if this means that that people have been moved on or off the project. It could mean both. Quite cryptic for a reason. I believe they're not really wanting to let on too much of what's actually happening at the studio. But in my opinion, cancelled games and layoffs are never good. It's never a good sign, and feels like potentially another misstep for EA. We don't know all of the details, of course. We may never know all of the details, but perhaps the games they were working on were just no good. Perhaps they needed to be cancelled, or perhaps they're just moving people around and laying people off to make the shareholders happy, to bring down production costs. I'm not sure.
$100 billion.
So as I was piecing together this video, I was just reading up a little bit more on some of the details surrounding EA, and it turns out it's much worse than I initially realized. EA have laid off at least 300 employees, and 100 of those are apparently from Respawn Entertainment. This has affected people who were working on the next Jedi game, and they've seemingly been let go. The Respawn Jedi team and also Apex Legends team just got a lot smaller, and the Titanfall game was cancelled. The thing about this though is that EA has in recent years also had a number of other layoffs. In March 2023, they laid off 700 employees and then another 670 in February 2024, which makes a total of 1,800 jobs, including these new ones, laid off in the last 2 or so years. That's kind of wild. So what the heck is going on at EA? It's sad to see that people are likely being pulled off of this Star Wars project and potentially other Star Wars projects they're working on in the background, and also the other games. Again, I just hope this doesn't have a broader, more negative effect on the future of Star Wars games and on the third Jedi game. I really hope they are able to ship it without any trouble. But even after this news has dropped, I've seen a few of the developers tweeting about this and just giving their opinions and saying, yeah, it's a bad day for Respawn and EA. It's bad that people are being laid off, losing their jobs, and seemingly projects are being shut down before they ever really found their wings. I don't think I'm being dramatic in saying any of this or even positioning the video, I guess, the way I have. It feels like it's not good. And yes, they're saying that they're still working on their Star Wars games, but man, letting go of 300 people on one day and potentially 100 of those were working on Star Wars Jedi is kind of a big deal, man. Also, the thing I find odd about this is that EA themselves on Twitter haven't put out any official statement that I can see. Respawn have put out a specific statement, but there's no official word from EA's account. And when something major like this happens, I just feel like there needs to be more acknowledgement of it happening and more acknowledgement for the community and everyone who may be affected by this, because you know, losing jobs in the game industry is never a good thing. We always want more games. And yes, some games definitely shouldn't necessarily be made, but I don't know, cancellations and delays and job layoffs for me are generally negative things. So I just hope Jedi 3 is good, man. That's all I'm hoping for. Make it good, please. Please. But I think the exciting news to take away from this is the fact that Respawn and EA are potentially working on other Star Wars games outside of what we know about. You know, we're getting the third Jedi game, we've known that for quite some time, and also now the Zero Company strategy game.
The war beneath the war.
Not clear, not clear.
But it seems like there could be more Jedi games down the track, perhaps continuing further the story of Cal Kestis or evolving into a new story. Perhaps they'll use the same template and the same style and the same game engine, the same mechanics, but adapt them to a different narrative, a different character, a different story altogether. Perhaps we'll get a second iteration of Jedi games. It seems at the moment the possibilities are endless.
So love has blinded you.
But if we can take some positives away from this news about layoffs, about cancellations, it's that there's a chance from it we'll get more Star Wars games. And we all know that's what we need a lot more of.
Do it.
To me, it's exciting that they've said within the Star Wars universe, we're excited to keep building new Star Wars stories.
Smashing.
Which to me also says Disney wishes to continue their relationship with EA and with Respawn at this time, that they're impressed by what they're doing with the Jedi games, what they, I guess, did also with Star Wars Squadrons, but potentially they even did with Battlefront. Maybe this will mean one day we get Battlefront 3. Oh my goodness, wouldn't that just break the internet? But I'm sorry to anyone who was impacted by this and who potentially lost their job over this. Always sad, but I hope something positive comes out of it. What do you make of the news? What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Watch this video here for more Star Wars. Follow me on Instagram, Twitter, the others. Subscribe and
stay bombastic.